You know, sometimes I don't even know why I do this to myself. When I had an album or a musician that I loved so much as a kid that I come out with a new album, I feel like I have to review it because I'm so qualified for the job and I loved them so much when I was younger. But it's just torturing yourself on purpose. It's like going to see Batman vs. Superman when you already know how bad it's going to be, but you do it anyway because you saw the trailers and you're like, but it could be good, but it's not. This is exactly that, but 10 times worse. This is Goo Goo Dolls' new album. That's right, I'm a Goo Goo Dolls fan. I have been for a very, very long time. In fact, I've been one of their biggest fans for a very long time. This is Box's, the new one. The last time they put out an album, I was so angry at them I refused to do it again. Apparently I didn't refuse hard enough because when this came around I thought, well, we got Radiohead and the Deftones, I should just review another favorite band of mine. Well, that one turned out to be a very difficult decision on my part, because this is just painful. But we'll get into that in a second. How about some history on the Goo Goo Dolls? They started out as a band that nobody who knows them now would recognize if they didn't know it. They're an American rock band that formed in 1986 in Buffalo, New York, formed by John Resnick on vocals and guitar and Robbie Tekak on bass, as well as drummer George Tusaki. Mike Menlin was originally the band's drummer from 95 to 2013, but not an official member until 98. They started up in the early days as a full old-school punk band trying to be the Replacements. I know that's crazy, but there's 3 eras of the Goo Goo Dolls. The first era was punk attempting to be the Replacements. And they did that for a long time they played together, and the current vocalist, John Resnick, was actually so scared to sing that he didn't sing at all. Robbie was the actual lead vocalist at the time, and he's got such a punk vocal that nobody argued with that. They were playing a gig as a trio, True Detective ad called the Goo Goo Doll, and they were playing this garage band trying to make this big thing, and they had a gig, so they needed to come up with a name. They figured the best way they come up with a name is something that would stuck. So within 5 minutes, they picked a name out of a hat, and they said as a joke, let's be the Sex Maggots. And they said, no, we got to pick a better name than that. And they decided to go with the Goo Goo Dolls. And that was their first album recorded on Mercury Records. They went from there. It was picked up by Celluloid Records in 1988, a larger record company. And they played the underground circuit in Buffalo for a long time, opening for heavy punk bands like the Dead Milkmen. Things that, actual punk bands. And DRI. I'm not making this up. The Goo Goo Dolls. They played for a long time until releasing Hold Me Up underground. John Resnick finally comes out on lead vocals on 5 tracks, including the single There You Are, as well as the concert favorite 2 Days in February. And they became huge in the college radio scene and sort of started shifting into the secondary phase of the Goo Goo Dolls, which started about Superstar Car Wash 93. And that's the alternative rock, guitar-based Goo Goo Dolls that you know today as the sing-along kind that you hear on the radio. And that started in 93. And the album was released at Metalworks Studios, and We Are the Normal was the one that really got them on the page. Speaking of being the Replacements, Paul Westerberg of the Replacements actually wrote the lyrics for We Are the Normal for the Goo Goo Dolls. Following that, they put out the 5th album, A Boy Named Goo, which major, huge breakthrough. Everyone knew who they were based on that album when it was finished. And it went up, and the radio just did not stop from there because they made Dizzy Up the Girl after that, and the radio hits came right on through. Iris was one of the biggest hits of all time, 18 weeks spent at number 1, which is a lot. I know there's been songs that have since then that have just trumped that, but in the day that was a lot. From there, they've had so many hits. They continued all the way through for a while, and they went to, I would say the 3rd era didn't start until 2013 with Magnetic. And the 3rd era of the Goo Goo Dolls is annoying synth mainstream pop band who's since forgotten their roots. So let's go into the since forgotten their roots, shall we? I've been a fan of this band from the very beginning, since I started listening to them, and I went all the way back to the beginning of their eras of punk, even listening to that, and I loved it. I bought every album up until Magnetic, and I hated Magnetic. They changed their entire sound to sound like a modern synth pop band, and I did not like it. Everything I loved about them was gone, and I was so angry that I skipped that tour that year because I didn't want to see the songs played live, and I didn't want them to ruin that show for me. It was very, very apprehensive of doing this anyway, but I picked it up because I hate myself a little bit, I guess. I think that's what it is, a small amount of masochism, because I had to listen to it. I'm a Goo Goo Dolls fan. So here's hoping they're back to their old sound. Start at the beginning, over and over. Any hope of a return to the old school sound is immediately just crushed violently with the sound of the synth opening. It moves in waves just like every modern synth pop song of every year ever. And the chorus is so simple and lazy that, they were never wordsmiths like Bob Dylan, but at least they played with heart. They genuinely had tunes and musical integrity before, and that's gone here. It's just like they made a song that sounds like a cheese grater being grinded over a Maroon 5 soundtrack. And I just can't understand what they think will sell about this, because at least Maroon 5 was popular when they attempted this, and they had an audience to back it up. The Goo Goo Dolls haven't been popular since like 2006 at the latest, and they don't have an audience to get mainstream hits with to sell their souls. It's too late. Souls in the Machine. Told you I was going to sidetrack. Track 2, starting with the guitar. It could be promising with a real intro from vocals, but the promising is gone immediately with that country twinge guitar ending with huge synth waves during the chorus. Overall, its song affair is better than the first one, but not that much. Flood, a Coldplay-sounding synth lead of a song before it takes into an even worse spin with lyrics that could choke Hallmark. Yep, I'm not making this up. I really think that. It's a duet vocally that sounds beautiful, but it's hard to pay attention to that when you're being hammered in the face with this huge synth sound that's so overbearing you can't even really hear the music around it. And listen to the lyrics. You're the flood, you're the flood, you're the flood that opened my heart. It's an actual line. What am I mad about choked Hallmark? The Pin, another promising guitar start crushed by synths and horrible lyrics. Just chorus cliche after cliche. It continues to be that simple build of huge synths and then fade back down in the verse, and then huge synth over the chorus cheese and then fade back down. It's doing that again, and it does it for a while. 5 is Boxes. It's actually the strongest opening of the album with the pomp and fanfare of the beautiful vocals. There's not as much annoyance while he's singing. Even with a more simple, beautiful ballad, they can't help but sneak in a few weird synths and over-the-top fake vocals. Overall, the song is a lot more good than bad, and that's better than can be said than most of this, but it's a bit repetitive. I guess that's the worst. That's the best you can hope for in a pop song. Repetitive. That's just a thing. Free of Me, we finally hear the first lead from Goo man, Robbie, and he has a much different sounding voice, which I've always loved, personally. I think it works better here because it's so different from every pop singer in the world, and it sticks out as more unique, and I think that's why I like it. He's not trying to sound the exact same, and the music over-the-top synths don't fit him, so he actually sounds a little bit cooler even with the bad music. Reverse, John is back on lead vocals with a little cool piano intro, and it's gone. This is the worst over-the-top synth on the album. I practically choke on it. You can't even hear what's happening over the synth. It's like a bad club, but the club doesn't know what a good beat is, so they just play a loud one. Hey, the piano line's back. No, it's gone. Lucky One, no cool intros, no fake-outs. Straight into the overbearing Christian rock meets modern synth cheese grater producer from hell. So Live, this is my favorite on the album. And I say that, I don't know. It's not like it's a great thing, but it's the only one I can stomach. It starts with the piano line dueling over the guitar and this fun, catchy vocal from John. I don't even mind the background choruses over here, and the synths aren't as overbearing, so they don't bother you. It's still, not a great song, but it's so better than the rest of the album that it actually feels like a genuine, good song after you've heard the rest of it. I know that's sad, but at least John was trying in the lyrics for once. Prayer in My Pocket. Remember that compliment I gave Robbie about his vocals being unique and different? I take it back. I take it all back. John was one thing, but Robbie gets to be a part of the most nauseating song on the album. Not only are the synths bad, so forcibly shoved down your throat, but you can't hear it, but the Bible course sections are just awful. And I mean not awful because it's pro-Jesus. I mean bad just because it's bad. Really, really bad. I'm pro-Jesus and all too, but you don't just... If your words are worse than those Christian missionary words, the ones that come door to door trying to sell you stuff, then maybe you've screwed up. Long Way Home is the closer on the album. It starts with a piano and John stripped back vocals. Before you know, the greatest song they wrote on the album. It's just beautiful songwriting, clever lyrics, catchy guitar play, and No, I'm lying. That's not what happens at all. They go back into the heavy synths and hit you over the head with it until the song ends. What are you kidding? You think they're going to change it up here? No. The album cements a fear I had after Magnetic into place. I thought, if they tried something new and they decided they didn't like it because it was stupid and bad, maybe they would go back. But following that, they decided not to go back and head headlong into it even more. And it's not the worst album I've ever heard. That still belongs to Lulu by Metallica and Lou Reed. But it's one of the worst I've ever heard, honestly. The one bad album rule I use is that if you make a bad album, you can always come back to my good grace if you make another one that's good after. But two bad albums in a row, two really bad albums in a row, we've got a problem. It's sad for me because I'm such a fan, but I think I may have to be done with the Goo Goo Dolls. I can't actually fit in as a modern day fan anymore, and that's really disappointing. And I don't even understand it because they don't have the audience to make pop songs and be on the radio. So why sell out when all you're going to do is alienate the fans you still have by doing it? I don't understand. Maybe it's time for Greatest Hits tour and maybe no new albums ever again if they're going to sound like this. Trust me, the 90s fans do not want to see this live. Recommend songs. So Alive if you're feeling like a really stretched recommendation. 1 out of 5 stars just because of my love for you in the past, and that is it. No. Bad Goo Goo Dolls. We do that outside.